then I said, that must be a ghost of, and I hope that you don't allow ghosts to sit with you in the board meeting. But I hope that somebody will be able to attend to. But much more of concern for me is what I've also seen on page 10 and page 50. I must be honest with you, I am concerned as to the changes in top management. I deliberately started with the word people, because if you have that size of change, even if you are moving them to other areas within the group, and then we are not nicely to be able to benefit from the experience that. So one of the things that we must try and do is to make sure that we can retain people and benefit from the training that they also get, which is a cost to us. But I don't think that is what I'm finding. Because if we look at 2018 versus 2017, the same position. So there's huge, if there are challenges, we must begin to see how we address them. Because for me, even with the best of filling stations, like the second speaker talked about, and you don't have the necessary persons with the necessary experience to run them, you'll just be buildings. Okay? So I'm hoping that somebody will also be explaining that. But why will we have Chief Financial Officer who is not a member of any accounting organization? Because I'm sure if he has Anna, he will be able to sign rather than going to ask for waiver. How much did we pay in getting a waiver? These are, and I can't imagine that we'll have an organization. Yes, the staff strength did drop by 13, but with the size of persons that we have, it means that we don't have any chartered accountant within the system, be it Anan, be it ICANN. Because for me, all of these that we are talking about is our ability to be able to say, yes, this account can be vouched for. Yes, you have an auditor, but the auditor himself is only coming to look at what you have prepared. He didn't prepare anything. Okay? So it's a major concern for me, and I'm hoping that we'll be able to speak around. I'm happy that these two earlier speakers talked about our margin. But my major concern in this year's position is a situation where cost of sales was standing at 96%. 96%. What is left? What is left? And why is our cost of sales that high? Because one of the things I also try to do is to look for answers, either within your account or within this sector. And if you then take it further, retail, our cost of the margin, 3.8%. Aviation, 4%. What is the challenge that? Because we need to understand the challenge, so we also don't say the wrong things about the right things. So what are the challenges? And I think that is something that we need to speak. Yes, I read the chairman's statement, and I read the MD statement. I don't seem to find the answers in those statements. So since you all here now, it's important that you speak to those challenges so we can also better understand your position. I will be asking that the company secretary, realizing that we are in COVID era and everybody not only marks up, we all only have to send our proxy, that the proxy card or proxy page will have carried the fee that you're asking us to sign on. Because I'm sure anybody who signed this just signed it blindly without understanding what is it that will be paying. Even if it's going to remain the same, it should have been stated on the proxy page. And I'm hoping that when we get there, that aspect will also be explained. But going forward, which is in addition to the explanation that you'll be giving, I have seen the half-year position 2020 carrying a loss of 330 million. Yes, I also do know that that amount is smaller than the loss for the same period in 2019. That was almost 1 billion. But please do note, should the year end the way it started, that's talking about half-year position, let it be known to this board that the minimum that you would do is that you must clear the gap between paid up and authorized. which means that a bonus of 1 for 20 should be the least benefit that will come our way next year. The least. Realizing that if you don't pay dividend next year, that will be 4 straight years of no dividend. So don't come here next year, no dividend, no bonus. Some of us will not take it lightly. Because like I mentioned earlier, you'll be asking us to approve director's fee, no matter how small. The man who has not seen water, even a teaspoon of water becomes meaningful. And that teaspoon of water can help to extend the life expectancy of that person. So give the bonus, and then let's begin to see how we also manage it. Also going forward, I will be hoping that our 5-year summary, which incidentally, in the last 52 weeks, every shareholder who invested in this company earlier than 52 weeks has lost 1/3 of his investment. Okay? And that's why you begin to understand why some level of compensation is absolutely necessary going forward. But it's also important that on your 5-year financial summary, and I think this will also apply to the company secretary, please indicate the closing prices of the share price of the company. Because that way, we can also match what you are paying in terms of dividends vis-a-vis what the returns are. Happy for all that has been happening. People are wiser. Even those people who didn't read economics, who didn't read accounts like me, are beginning to learn the real value for money. And one of the ways to calculate my real value for money is what I get in terms of returns. So please do also state that. On a final note, I was expecting that something around the likely impact of a refinery on Lekki to the business of the company. Because certainly, you talk about the refinery, but I didn't find how that is going to impact the business that you do. Pending when the electric cars also come, it's important that we at least look at the short to medium term prospect of the company, and then hoping that as we move along, we'll also be able to understand the long-term opportunities that also is available for us as investors. It's on that note that I again want to join the 2 earlier speakers in thanking the company for deeming it fit to ask us to represent the large number of shareholders who will not be here going forward. But since we have 24,600 other shareholders who are not here, I think from what we're seeing, it may also become necessary, since you have more than 10,000 shareholders, that this virtual meeting will also become part and parcel of the life of this company going forward. If not for anything, the savings that we have made in this year, in not having to hire, what we have now is a boys' quarter. Ordinarily, you will have hired, you'll have hired a main building. So the savings that you have made in not staying in a duplex and staying in a boys' quarter, please let's begin to employ it and put it in having virtual meeting. Secondly, we also have unclaimed dividends. Those unclaimed dividends, I expect, are also being put into investment. And unfortunately for investors who have not claimed their dividends, you are not going to pay them interest on the money, even when you make money from the monies that they haven't claimed. That itself will be part of the ways of reaching out for a number of shareholders who are not able to attend this meeting. So, like I said, any company that has more than 10,000 shareholders must begin to look at visual meeting in addition to the physical meeting going forward. We don't need SEC to tell us, because SEC itself is after its own interest. They are not after our interest. The only time our interest becomes their own is when there is going to be benefit for them. So let's begin to ask ourselves, going forward, how do we improve all of this? So on that note, I want to thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you very much, Mr. Awo. Do we have, for those who are streaming in, do we have any questions that have come in from people watching online? No questions? No questions. Okay, thank you. Prince of Modular, please, you may go ahead.
Thank you, Chairperson. All protocols duly observed. My name is Prince Dr. Anthony Amojola, the new National Coordinator of Independent Shareholder Association of Nigeria. I want to join the earlier speakers. I want to associate myself with them. But as the foremost shareholders group in Nigeria, as usual, we have done a comprehensive review of the account, and these have been forwarded to the management for proper study and use. In addition to that, I will try to mention a few other points which are very germane to the interests of the company and the shareholders. Maybe as usual, let me start from where none has stopped. The issue of unclaimed dividend. My emphasis on that is that let us have a readable list of unclaimed dividend. I emphasize that readable because there are so many unclaimed dividend lists produced which the shareholders cannot read, so it's of no benefit. So when you have a readable list printed, this will be available on the portal in the first instance of the company and the registrars. Apart from that, the physical ones should be available with the registrars. And of course, when you talk of the investors relation officer within the company should have it. Then the notable associations should also have copies so that this can be exposed to their members. With this step taken, we can encourage our members to fill their e-mandate, at the same time to follow up with the registrars and be able to claim dividend. Otherwise, we will still be repeating the same thing on yearly basis. And we should not forget there are other parties that are interested in that money. We don't want to part with our money. That's number one. Number two, the issue of finance costs. Finance cost is very, very high. It's increased by 183%. There are so many, for different reasons. But we want the management the board and management to look at the reasons why the finance costs are so much and try to address them. We have the increment in bank charges, unwinding of discount on site restoration provision, interest on lease liability, and net exchange loss. On the foreign exchange loss, we want the management to be able to hedge some of our investments or what we are expecting from the foreign countries, so that because of the dwindling value of the naira, we should not make a loss when we are supposed to have a good return on our investment. Then the other aspect on expenses, expense by nature, that's on page 73. That one also increased by 26%. We also want the management to be mindful of this cost, look at them, those ones that are controllable, to minimize the cost as much as they could and still getting the best result as anticipated. On page 44, I can see one of the directors signing the audit committee report. Maybe that was allowed a few years back when Financial Reporting Council came with the advice, but that route was not legal then. They advised that they want accountant to sign reports. We have since taken them on, and the court has validated our position that you don't need to be a chartered accountant before you sign an audit committee report. And many companies have taken to that. And within the current audit committee, especially even the person that read the committee report today is even a chartered accountant. So I don't see any reason why the directors should sign, why the other shareholders are there. So let us change that going forward. I read on page 107 on subsequent events. That COVID-19 is going to have effect on our operation is an understatement. But to what extent is what we cannot determine right away. However, with the use of the allowance matrix by the company in treatment of expected credit losses and trade receivables, we hope we can minimize the impact going forward. Because if you look at page 85, the impairment charge for the outgoing year is about 50% of that receivable, so which is 2.64%. Sorry, 2.64 billion out of about 5.5, which is 50%, about 50%. If you go, if you continue that way, that means receivables just there in figure is not something we have a return on, and that is not good enough. So I also want the management to watch over the level of inventories, because inventories also lead to greater impairment over time, like we have in this account, which where we have lost millions of naira due to impairment. So if you watch those two areas, and the earlier two I've said making four, you'll be able to reduce our expenses. And when you reduce expenses, that means you have greater returns. And the hope of receiving dividend next year can now be meaningful. Otherwise, I hope we can remain the same. So with this and what have been put forward, I'm sure we've added necessary value, and going forward to wish the company, the board, management, more successes in foreseeable years. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. And finally, I will call on Mr. Adesina, sir. Chief, sir.
The chairman, members of the board, distinguished fellow shareholders who present here, and those watching us through the system provided. My name is Chief Timothy Adesina, the immediate past president of Nigerian Shareholders Solidarity Association. I just want to draw your attention to page 92 of this annual report. On page 92, you will see that during the year, as part of negotiation to close out on the outstanding subsidy claims, the Central Bank of Nigeria issued a letter dated 18th January 2019 requiring banks to take a 100% haircut on interest accrued on these import finance facilities from 1st July 2017 to date. I wonder what would have happened if this decision were not taken. Maybe all our investment would have gone totally into the drain. So I want to consider this along with the result we are considering on page 8, which is the performance of the company, and I want to let my fellow investors realize that the fault is not in us, but in our stars, as Shakespeare said it. But here, it is not in our stars, but in our regulation. The regulators are also our competitors. How can we survive this? If you dare it, you will get to a situation where your cost of importation will be higher than what you will sell. How to use this kind of situation? I therefore appreciate the efforts of the company while still being able to stand in the presence of all these problems. And I appreciate that despite all the problems, the company is still able to give donations as stated on page 36. And this also, I'm appreciating that the company gave a donation of 1.7 million naira during the year. And I don't know what we have to do about the supply of our product. If we are given the chance to import, maybe we could do better. But even when we can't import, and our fate is in the hand of our competitor, how then can we satisfy the aspirations of our own investors who put in money into this business? So I will also like to thank the board, management, and staff for still being able to tread the path. And I'm worried about a particular product which this company is known for in the past. This is one kind of grease that is usually used for good engines, and many people, once you put it into the engine of their cars, they just say, okay, their car cannot just knock or get into problem, and that is a Mafak grease. I don't know whether we are still producing it. Mafak grease. It used to be very thick grease, and it used to be the pride of MRS in those days. So I will also like to thank the company for your devotion to good corporate governance, as enunciated on pages 38 to 42. You follow good corporate governance strictly, and I observe that your directors attend board meetings as at when due, and they give good governance and good innovations, new products, which is the pride of this company. And I also want to appreciate the company for being a listening board, because if this were not to be the case today, shareholders would have been even very much annoyed with this company with the kind of results we are considering. But because our own people are on the board, they are your witnesses. We shareholders suggested that you should take in from our midst, and you have taken two good people who we can always rely on. We thank you, we appreciate you, and we just say that we want you to consider what you will be able to do for us next year. As Nora Awo suggested, it will not be in cash. It might be in bonus of minimum of 1 to 20, as he suggested. But even if it is not up to that, we just want to have something. For the years 2010 to 2017, 8 years, we had been receiving dividends, and we appreciate this company for it. For the past 3 years, we have not received anything. So help us look into this. Thank you. God bless you all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much, sir. We still have no questions from the people streaming in. Okay. So I will proceed to answer the questions in no particular order. For some of the questions, I will ask Mr. Agutu to come in and help out where I'm not able to give answers to that. So let me start with the general comments. And first, I would like to thank every shareholder, every shareholder's representative here present and those watching for your patience, for your trust, for your understanding in these very difficult times that we all find ourselves in. Thank you very much for your understanding, for your patience, and I think more importantly for your candid advices and comments, which you always give to us. That has gone a long way in ensuring that the company is where it's at today, because without you, we don't see or hear all of the comments or complaints that are out there. So I'd like to start by thanking you all very much for that. Let me start from the general questions or comments which are related to pages 2 and 3, the vision and the mission. And I take on board what you have said, Mr. Adeleke, with regards to looking into other areas other than just being a downstream company. One of the things I can tell you is that what we're doing today is already looking at that, because we have seen with the effect of COVID where the industry is today, and we know that without a doubt we have to look beyond downstream. And as you rightly pointed out, that's why you see the Victoria Island station is a pilot for how we hope that all the stations will be. In addition to the Victoria Island station, we have rolled out another six that look like VI station, and the idea is not just to deal with products, but also to gradually start to build a real estate business and see how that can sustain us. In addition to that, we're putting a lot more emphasis on lubricants and LPG. You will see that we've already started to have some engagements on the lubricant side with the mechanics. We've had a show at the Mechanics Village, we've had some road shows, and we hope that we would see most of those results coming in from the beginning of next year. Unfortunately, just as we started to gain traction, we had the issue of COVID, and you know that 6 months this year, practically nothing's been done. So that has taken us back to the beginning, and that's why I'm saying from next year, because what we hope and plan to do is over the next few months, start the engagements again, do all the marketing campaigns, and just start to roll out the products that we have. In terms of our people, yes, we pride ourselves by saying that our people are our greatest assets as a company. But we're also mindful of the fact that times are changing. As Mr. Awo pointed out, we would have to use a lot of technology today. And in part, I think you will see that. I'm sure even when we come to probably the financials towards the end of the year, you would see that a lot of the expenses will drop, because as much as we can now, we're trying to use technology to drive the business. Now, what that means is we will continue to have some level of attrition, staff attrition, because as we go along, you know, the technical competence changes. We would need to have a lot more people who are more technology based. I mean, even for me, I'm struggling with some of the things that we have to deal with these days, you know, so that would also account for some level of attrition. Now, what we are doing, because we have said that people are our assets, we're not just asking people to leave, we're trying to see how we can use those people. So where we're getting new people in, or where we're changing the processes, for example, where we're automating processes, we're looking to see what we can do with the people who used to occupy those positions or do those jobs, because we no longer need them to perform those roles anymore. So we also note that and we'll take that on board. We're also working on that. Since I'm on the people issue, I would also like to clarify that it was the issue of the MD who left in, I believe it was 2018. Can you correct me if I'm wrong? That was a typographical error. That was a typographical error. So, Mr. Awo, you're right. We will correct that, and we apologize for that. But that was an error. So that would also be corrected. There was a question on the impact of the Dangote refinery on the business. And I mean, when I have conversations with people and people say, how will the refinery impact our business? I always say to people, it can only help our business to get better, because the Dangote refinery will just be another source of product. So rather than having to go abroad to buy products and import to Nigeria, we would go to Dangote and buy from them. And that also helps us to deal with the issue of foreign exchange, because we may not need to open a letter of credit in dollars. We don't know what the fiscal policy would be for purchasing products from the refinery yet, but even if we have to buy in dollars, we will not be paying the freight that we have to pay for a ship to bring products from Europe or anywhere else in the world. So I think it would have a positive impact on the business, and we look forward to that. On the Forex loss, there was a comment about hedging some of the investments which we have to do in Forex. We've explored some of that in the past, but the problem is that the banking system in Nigeria today doesn't really have products to hedge the Forex that you deal with, and that has been a challenge for us. So what we've tried to do is to balance the business to see how we can compensate and minimize the loss as much as possible. It's almost impossible not to have any losses, because aviation, for example, we have to sell to the foreign airlines in dollars, and that becomes a limitation for us, and it's international standard. But as much as possible, we try to minimize those losses, and we will continue to try to do that. There was a comment on the expenses. We note that, and like I mentioned already, that's a top line for us. We're already looking at that, and we hope that by the time we have the results next year, you will see the reduction in expenses, because at this point we've gone back and we're working on that. In terms of the margins also, that is also a concern for us, and it still boils down to some of the comments which have been made here. Today, the market is somewhat regulated, because we've heard the PPPRA and everybody else say the market is deregulated, and that is what they've tried to practice. However, there's still some restrictions, because even if the market is deregulated today, we're not in a position to import, because we simply can't access the foreign exchange that is needed for us to import. So there are limitations, and that in turn accounts for the cost of sales that you see mainly, because the bulk of the products that we deal with is regulated. Our margins are fixed based on the template from government, so that limits what we can do. However, to mitigate that, what we're doing is to try to push up volumes, because there were also comments on the drop in volume. We're all aware that in 2017, I believe, and 2018, we shifted focus, so to say, and I remember it was also an issue which was taken at the AGM, where we said that the bulk sales have been reduced to focus on retail, and that impacted on the volume a bit. But today you will see that that is the reverse, because those volumes that we lost in bulk sales, we have recovered today. And I guess in hindsight, we were lucky that we took that decision at the time that we did, because what we saw from the COVID period during the lockdown was that we were only able to sell through our retail outlets. So if we had not insisted on focusing on the business of retail, we would have had, our results would have been worse than we're seeing today. But also with the revamp of the stations, our volumes are going up significantly, and I'm sure that we would also see that at the end of the year. In addition to all the other things that we're trying to do to just show up the volumes and get more traffic into the station. So you will see that also. And we will continue to try to manage the cost as much as possible. Same comments for the retail and aviation margins, because those are, as much as they're deregulated products, they're highly competitive, especially the aviation business with the international airlines. They base their prices on international markets. And unfortunately for us, what happened this year particularly was that you have signed a contract for 1 year, and then you had the situation where COVID came in and international prices dropped, but you had already brought in inventory. So that also takes care of what you were talking about with regards to watching inventory and not carrying on too much inventory. We were able to see how that affected the business, because we had inventory for aviation at the time when COVID happened, and we had to carry that inventory until when the markets reopened again. But we note all of the comments that you have made. Prince Omojola mentioned the issue of the unclaimed dividends and having a readable list. We have noted that, and the company secretary will work on that to also ensure that it is available for everyone. You mentioned copies being available, but I think I would want to latch on to what Mr. Awo said there. I think that as much as possible, as we move forward, rather than have paper copies, we should have electronic copies. So once we have emails, we'll be able to email everything that is needed by everyone. Hopefully we get to a point where we will not need papers anymore, and that would help people get information real time as we prepare results. In fact, it's one of the things that we hope that we would get to, where we can send everything out electronically, leveraging on technology. On the finance cost, we're also watching that. Yes, it was high, but there's a level of how far we can go. I mean, the business is one which really you have to take loans from banks to be able to import or just fund your business. And we all know what bank charges are today. We've engaged a lot of the banks. Thankfully, with where the interest rates are today, and banks now having to meet the CBN regulation of ensuring that at least they give out loans, we're seeing some level of competition, and it's almost a client's market, and we're tapping into that. So we're also watching our finance cost. I believe I've touched on everything in no particular order. So So thank you all very much for your time and your patience, and I hope that I've been able to answer all the questions, but not just answer the questions, also give you the confidence that you need to know that the company is on the right track, and we will continue to do all that we need to do in our power to ensure that shareholders get the maximum returns where possible. With that, I will go on with the meeting. The remaining 7 items on the agenda will be decided by poll, with the exception of item 5, which, pursuant to section 2241 of CAMA 2004, is to be decided upon by a show of hands. Please note that all resolutions to be taken at this meeting are ordinary resolutions, and a simple majority of votes will be required to pass each resolution. Voting on resolutions for each agenda item number 2, 3, 4, and 6 will be conducted electronically. The shareholders and proxies have been provided with a voting device by the registrars. I invite the registrars to provide explanations about the voting procedure.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We have the proxies have voted in advance, so we pick the figure as they have given instruction. But for those of us who are here as shareholders, we have given us this voting device. When any resolution is moved and we have to vote, you press 1 or A for, and if you are voting against any resolution, you press 2/B. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. Item 2 on the agenda is the election of directors in accordance with Section 259 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2004 and clauses 90/91 of the Company's Articles of Association. Special notice is hereby given pursuant to Section 256 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2004 that Mr. Matthew Akinlade, who is retiring as director and offering himself for re-election at this meeting, has attained the age of 70 years. Mr. Matthew Akinlade and Sir Sonny Nnamdi Nwosu, KSS, retire by rotation and being eligible under the articles hereby offer themselves for re-election. We shall proceed with the re-election of the retiring directors one by one. I hereby move that Mr. Matthew Akinlade, a retiring director, be and is hereby re-elected director of the company. Will someone please second the motion? Thank you, Mr. Thank you, Chief Adesina. I now put the motion to the meeting.
Countdown. 9 seconds more. 5 seconds more. 3 seconds. 1 second. Voting has ended, please. Result. Result as projected. We had 61 people voting, both in proxy and shareholders here present. 100% in terms of shareholding, 183,122,243,000 votes. 243 units of shares voting. No abstention, 100%. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
I declare the motion unanimously carried. The second director up for re-election is Sasoni Namdi-Nwosu, KSS. I hereby move that Sasoni Nwosu, KSS, a retiring director, be and is hereby re-elected director of the company. Will someone please second the motion? Thank you, Mr. Omojola. I now put the motion to the meeting.
Voting is open. Countdown. 9 seconds left. 6 seconds left. Voting has closed. At the end of the exercise, 60 shareholders and proxies voted for, none against. In terms of shareholding, 103,120,011 shares voted for, none against, 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. I declare the motion unanimously carried. The next item on the agenda is the appointment of auditors. The firm of KPMG Professional Services have been external auditors to the company since the 27th of July 2010. I want to use this medium to appreciate the firm of KPMG Professional Services for their service to the company over the years, and I wish them the very best. In place of KPMG Professional Services, your board is recommending that the firm of Deloitte & Touche Professional Services be appointed. I move the motion for the appointment of Deloitte & Touche Professional Services as external auditors of the company. Will someone please second the motion? Thank you, Mrs. Bakari. I now put the motion to the meeting.
Can we please? Okay. There's a little network glitch.
Okay, I think that while we wait for that, I will crave the indulgence of the shareholders to thank KPMG. It's been a long journey. We've come a long way with them, and we've had honest, open conversations with them as auditors. You have been very patient, very professional, and on behalf of the shareholders, the management, and the board, would like to thank you very much for the years that you have put in with MRS PLC, and we really do wish you the best in the future. Thank you very much. Okay. The next item of the day is the election of the audit committee members. In accordance with section 3594 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2004. I will hand over the microphone to Sir Sonny at this point, since I am one of the nominees and I cannot oversee what I'm.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Okay.
Thank you.
Sorry, ma. Can we take the?
Yes,
You are ready.
Okay.
Okay. That is technology for you. Yes, we are ready, ma'am. Thank you. Can we start? Yeah, we are voting already. Countdown. Seven, 6 seconds more. 5, 4, 3, 2. Result. Thank you very much. We have 62 shareholders and proxies present and voting, and they voted for, none against. That's 100%. In terms of holdings, 103,122,483 units of shares voted for, none against, 100%. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I declare the motion unanimously carried. Item 4 on the agenda is to authorize the directors to fix the auditor's remuneration. I move that the directors be and are hereby authorized to fix the auditor's remuneration. Will someone please second the motion? Thank you, sir. I now put the motion to the meeting.
We're about to start. Let's start. Remember, you press 1 for and 2 against. Hand done. 9 seconds left. 5, 4, 3, 2, 0. Result. 63 shareholders and proxies voted for, none against, 100%. Shareholding, 103,124,715 units voted for, none against, 100%. Thank you.
Thank you. I declare the motion unanimously carried. The next item of the day is the election of audit committee members. In accordance with section 3594 of the Companies and Allied Matters Act 2004. The directors' nominees are Dr. Amobi Daniel Wakofo, myself, Ms. Amina Maina, and Mrs. Priscilla Ogwemo. The following names were sent by shareholders, having given the required notice of 21 days before the annual general meeting of the company. 3 nominations were received in the following order. Mr. Emmanuel Wachuku Okafo, nominated by Igrud O. Moses. Ibrude, Ibrude O. Moses. The second nominee is Mr. Ajani Babajide Adetunji, nominated by Mr. Aziz Lukman. And the third nominee is Mr. Oladimeji Bolaji Adeleke, nominated by Mr. Shekoni Nuruddin Adebayo. We're to elect 3 of the shareholders' nominees. I move the motion that the directors, together with the 3 shareholder representatives, are hereby elected as members of the audit committee. Will someone please second the motion? Mr. Adeleke, please. Thank you, Mr. Adeleke. This vote is by a show of hands, so will all those against the motion please signify by raising their admission cards in their right hand? Against? And will all those in favor please signify by raising their hands? I declare the motion unanimously carried. I declare that Emmanuel Nwachukwu Okafor, Ajani Babajide Adetunji, Oladimeji Bolaji Adeleke are duly elected members of the audit committee, together with the directors' nominees, Chief Dr. Wonkofo, Ms. Amina Maina, and Mrs. Priscilla Ogwemo. The next item, it's important to inform the meeting that the company has obtained the approval of the Corporate Affairs Commission to consider the special business at this meeting. It is also important to confirm to you that I am not a beneficiary of the director's fees. Item 6 is to fix the remuneration of the directors. I move the motion that directors' fees of 1 million naira per director per annum for 2020 be approved. Will someone please second the motion? The chairman does not earn anything. He's both myself and the actual chairman do not earn any director's fees. Please go ahead and second the motion. Thank you, Mr. Ido. And now put the motion to the meeting.
Done. 9 seconds more. 5 seconds. 4, 3, 2, 1. Result. And at the end of the voting for this resolution, we have 62 shareholders and proxies voting, and they voted for, none against, 100%. In terms of shareholding, we had 183,122,483 units of shares voting for and none against, 100%. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. I declare the motion unanimously carried. Distinguished shareholders, representatives of various regulatory agencies, ladies and gentlemen, We have come to the end of another annual general meeting of the company. On behalf of my colleagues on the board, the management and staff of this great company who direct and manage the business, I thank you immensely for your time and cooperation, as well as the confidence reposed in us. I also appreciate the shareholders present at this meeting and the representatives of the various regulatory agencies who have, despite the current pandemic, taken time out to be here with us today. I wish you all a safe journey to your respective destinations. As I formally declare the meeting closed, may I call on, who do I call on? Mr. Should know him. May I call on Mr. Omojola to give us a closing prayer?
In Jesus' name, Father, we thank you for the day. When we are beginning, we call on your name. We thank you for being with us. Thank you for guiding us. The meeting has been successful to the greater glory of your name. Accept our thanks in Jesus' name. As we are going, we pray for more successes for our company, for a turnaround. We pray for protection and guidance for each and every one of us. I pray for a turnaround of the economy of Nigeria so that by this time next year when we come back, we have cause to glorify your holy name. In Jesus' mighty name I pray.